Welcome, everyone, and welcome to another Silicon Labs product podcast. This episode today will focus on a new battery optimization tool developed by Silicon Labs. We're joined by Cristian Cortiga and Scott Townsend, who were very active in the definition and development of this tool, and they're going to be able to help us understand the benefits and what this tool was created for. Cristian Cortiga, he manages the IoT wireless technologies at Silicon Labs, and Scott Townsend is a manager in the IoT wireless applications engineering group. So thanks, guys, for joining me today.
Thank you, Kyle. Glad to be here.
The two of you introduced the battery optimization tool at the recent WorksWith event. I've included the link to the full session that you guys provided where you went into the details of this battery optimization tool. But I thought it would be great for the listeners for them to learn about key things about this tool. Cristian, could you take some time just to explain to the listeners what Silicon Labs is providing?
Yes, definitely, Kyle. And thank you for inviting us to the podcast. I'm glad to be back in front of the audience. So we're providing a very interesting set of tools that are already made through Simplicity Studio. And there we have in particular the energy profiler and the network analyzer that are baked into the Silicon Labs Studio. With this, you already get an initial understanding of your energy consumption, and especially if you're doing the right things in there to do code correlation, you can actually see which portions of your code are consuming what amount of energy. We were constantly playing with this tool. Our customers are playing with the tool. And while doing that, a key question that came back was, okay, now that I see the energy, how can I translate that energy into actual battery life? And how can I use it to potentially estimate and do changes in my software, optimize my software to extend the battery life? Then at that point, we sit down together with the apps team, and we started scratching our head, and we came up with the idea of what if we start creating types of events? And by doing this types of events, we can actually estimate the energy per event, and then combining the events with an Excel file, you can actually come up with the overall energy consumption throughout a day, then expand it throughout a month and a year and so on. And then from there, kind of go in a backwards type of thing to estimate from the total capacity of the battery, what would be the actual capacity usage and per year, and then estimate the amount of years that your battery would last. All of that started as an interesting exercise done actually in a discussion with a customer. It transformed into this Excel file that we presented during the WorksWith event, which is basically the tool that we're providing for helping out with the battery life estimation.
Yeah, and you did a great job, as I mentioned, going over it in the WorksWith session. So definitely, we're not going to be able to go into all the details on this short podcast. But Scott, why don't you touch on maybe 3 or 4? Cristian talked about the events. Maybe you can talk about 3 or 4 of the parameters that are real key for measuring the power and what you found was the most insightful into these designs.
Sure. Thanks, Kyle. So the tool utilizes system electrical parameters. So active radio transmit and receive currents, active processor energy mode 0 and sleep energy mode 2, or EM0, EM2, and battery parameters like the type of the battery, the capacity in milliamp hours, the self-discharge rate per year, and derating factor, along with device parameters. So polling intervals and application events per day. And you use these to output the battery life estimate and energy consumption pie charts. So the pie charts break down the total energy consumption per energy mode and per event type. We provide a Zigbee use case example, but we also allow the customer to enter their own measurement data. You can use Energy Profiler within Simplicity Studio, and that's an excellent tool with which customers can capture the data required for the calculator. So you want to identify each of the wake events into either recurring event, ad hoc event, or singular event, and then break down each of these events into the corresponding device states, transmit, receive, EM0, etc. Those events, or those slivers of events comprising the full wake profile. And again, the customer can refer to the Zigbee example tabs of the long poll, the app event, OTA polling, and OTA update for example details to help construct their own custom event tabs.
Okay, and the energy profiler again. So this is a great way they can use that to capture those events and then make those measurements and then put them into the spreadsheet like you mentioned. So that's pretty seems easy to do. Cristian, why don't you talk about what are some of the things that you see the customers changing? So now that they have this, battery optimization tool, where do you see or where have you seen customers use this tool and then make changes and actually see an impact in maybe a longer battery life?
Yes, definitely. There are basically two areas where the customers would be changing the tool. First area is adding more events. And we are coming with an example for Zigbee, but you can actually add events for any protocol. So I can see customers interested in Bluetooth, adding Bluetooth events, people interested in Z-Wave to add Z-Wave events and so on. Of course, we are also working on our side, and we will probably expand the tool as we move forward to add this as an example. But until that moment in time, they can do that by themselves and be shown during the WorksWith the presentation how to do that. The other area where they would definitely go and modify it's the electrical parameters. They would need to actually measure the parameters on their systems. As we talked during the presentation, these parameters differ depending on your board and how many other components you have on the board. So they would need to measure that and input these parameters into the tool. Otherwise, they can definitely play with creating more graphs if they want. We are showing only two pie charts, one that is showing the amount of energy per event type. The other one is showing per active modes, or let's say per the modes. There could be other types of charts created. They could maybe look at combining event types with some active modes or things like that. There could be a lot of things that can be done. So I can definitely see people playing with this tool and enhancing it, and who knows, maybe becomes something more widely used.
Well, this is sort of off the cuff comment based on your guys' input, but hopefully one of you guys has the answer for this. Do we have in our Simplicity Studios some example programs that you've mentioned all these events? So do we have an application they can put in where they can run through these test events and they don't have to create them themselves? Do we have sort of a benchmark application that captures all the events that are like in the Zigbee case that you talked about?
Yeah, so there are sample applications on the Zigbee side, for example, like a sleepy switch. Some of the standard BLE examples out of the box can be used to capture this. So yeah, I would expect that for most of our protocols, you have the capability to load a sample app and collect that data pretty seamlessly.
Great. Quick. So they've got the tool, they've got a couple of example projects, and they can start getting a little bit better understanding of the battery life using the EFR parts. That's great. Well, I don't want to take too much time on here. I appreciate your guys' time you spent answering some questions. I really encourage the listeners to listen to your full educational course that you gave at WorksWith, which the details are in the podcast description. So one last thing, Scott, where can people get access to this tool? Where will they be able to find this spreadsheet?
Yeah, so first off, you can download the tool from the WorksWith site under the Optimizing Battery Life session, the resources listed there. It will be uploaded to our technical resource library in the coming weeks. If customers want to take measurements with their own hardware or own application, they can utilize either a WSDK mainboard connected in AEM mode, supplying voltage to the target, or they can use a DC power analyzer or oscilloscope for custom hardware measurements. Some good references are application note AN969 that provides an overview of these different measurement methods. Also, application note AN1246 provides some Bluetooth power consumption measurement details. And if you're using Energy Profiler, you can refer to user guide UG343 for the multi-node Energy Profiler user's guide. And finally, the user guide for your wireless starter kit provides an overview of the AEM or advanced energy monitoring circuit and capabilities.
All right. Well, I'll put a couple of those links in the description as well, so that that's one-stop shop. Well, Cristian and Scott, thank you for the time you spent today. That was great.
Thanks, Kyle. It was fun.
Thank you very much, Kyle.
I really think that the audience is going to be able to understand the value of the tool. But the most important thing for all of the listeners, take the time, get access to the tool, and then start looking into your own power budget and your own battery optimization. So thanks again, everyone. Thanks for listening, and please take care.